Now in this section, we're going to be learning about Django Forms. And Django Forms are really just a way for us to create HTML forms, but much faster, and we get some advantages like validation. So the basic idea is, let's go, for example, to one of our views here. Like, let's go to our Create Hall. If we go and look at this, this is actually utilizing Django Forms. We haven't talked about exactly how this works. A lot of it's baked into the class-based views, but look at this. When we create a form, we have to have our opening form tag. We have to create a submit button, but the rest of the form is just automatically created for us, right? Using the Django's forms, this is handled for us. We don't have to go make a label and then make an input for that label. Like if we go and look at the HTML for this, it really saves us a lot. Like, let's go to our /Hall-of-Fame/create. Okay, when we go here and we look at our code, let's just inspect the element. This might be different on different browsers, but essentially you're going and you want to view the source for this. But you'll look, this is automatically created for us. So, down here, there's a label that says this is what the title of this, we're looking for a title here. Then there's the input, and it automatically gives it an ID, the type, a name, a max length, like that it's required. All this stuff for us is done automatically. And a hall is a very simple example, right? Like if we go back and look at our models here, you can see, well, a hall has a title and a user. We're not even asking for the user part, so that's pretty simple. But when you look at a video, for instance, it's like, okay, there might be a few more things that you would want to show up there. This is really where Django Forms are going to shine, because without them, you'd have to manually type this out. And if you decide to change, one thing about your model, you got to go back and change all your different forms, and it's really a big process. So with that, the place that we're going to learn about forms, sort of our little playground area for this, is we know how to create a Hall of Fame. And in fact, because we just learned how to delete everything, let's make a new one. Let's make one for cat videos again. All right, so we have our new Hall of Fame. Let's see what the number is on that. We'll do our Hall of Fame / I don't think it's 1. Let's try 2. There we go. There's our cat videos. Right? The number 1 was the previous one that got deleted, so now we're at number 2. But we want to be able to add videos to this Hall of Fame. It's not really a Hall of Fame if there's no videos inside of it. So in order to, sort of prep ourselves for this, let's go ahead and add the URL to add a video to the project. So it kind of depends up to you about where you want to classify this. We're going to be learning how to add a video to a Hall of Fame. So I've kind of been organizing things like, here's the auth, here's the hall stuff. I want to have a new section for video things. And to me, this really falls in the video category. Yes, we're going to be referencing a Hall of Fame, but ultimately we're trying to create a video object. So it's a little bit of mix of both. Again, it's not like you have to have it in a certain place. This is really just my naming to keep things organized. But it's going to look very similar to what you see of other things. So for example, I'm going to copy this path for update. I'm going to go ahead and just paste this down below. So we're still going to have the Hall of Fame with a certain primary key, but instead of update, let's go ahead and change this to add video, just like that. And this is one of those examples where it's really not a good idea to use a class-based view. Can you use a class-based view? Yes, but we're in sort of a tricky situation, right, where we're referencing 2 different models, but ultimately only creating one, and we want to have a search functionality on top of that that's going to be hitting up the YouTube API. Like, there's a lot of different things happening here. This is a good use case to just use a regular old view function. So let's just go ahead and say views dot, and then we'll use a name here for our add video. Let's just do something like add _ video, and let's use that same name here. Add _ video. Okay, so go ahead and save that. Now we have a URL. The next step for us is to move on over to our views where we're going to be able to display this. So let's go create that function that we just said would be there. So def add video. That's going to be taking in a request, and it's also going to be taking in the primary key. So don't forget to add that and the colon right there. So those are the 2 things that we're taking in, but ultimately we need to return back some sort of template with some forms. So this is where we're going to start talking about how do we create forms. Well, let's go ahead and create a new file. This is going to be an app level file. So we have our app up here called halls, right? I want to sort of minimize these folders so you know exactly where I'm talking about. So inside of the halls app, I'm going to create a new file called forms.py. So I'm going to do new file, and there we go, forms.py. Excellent. And then in this form.py, this is where I want to make a form where someone can create a new video object. So essentially I want to make a video form. So a couple things I got to import. The first one is the video model. So I'm going to say from.models, import, and I want to import the video. There we go. And then I need to import the form code. So I'm just going to say from lowercase Django import forms, just like that, simple enough. Okay, so really there's two kind of Django forms that you can create. There are model-based forms, and then there's also just regular old forms. So let's start first with the model form because it fits what we're working with here. So the way to make a model form is we say class, and then we give it some sort of name. In this case, I'm just going to call it video form. Keep it really simple. Don't get too fancy here. And then inside of the creator here, we're going to say forms.capital model form. Okay. And so what this does is it says, okay, pass me some sort of model and I will automatically create a form for you, right? Like it'll go check out for, in this instance, the video will say, okay, I need to make a form with a title, a URL. We're going to have to get a specific YouTube ID in there. It should be connected to a hall, like all of those things. It's going to automatically do for us. So we're going to go back to our forms.py, and inside of here, we're going to say, okay, your model is equal to just capital video. That's where we're saying, okay, this is the one that you want to work with. Now, we also want to specify which things do we want to ask for inside of this form. Because if we go back to our models, we should ask for the title. We actually don't technically, well, you'll see when we go through, eventually all we want to be able to do is have the user input the URL, and then we'll automatically go grab the title and the YouTube ID. But now for just seeing how forms work, let's just say I want to get these top three, but I don't really want the hall, right? Because the user shouldn't be able to select whatever hall that they want. It should be the one that they're currently looking at. If we go to the views.py, right, we get the primary key for whatever hall they're looking at. So we'll be able to automatically fill that in. So in that case, we're going to come here and say, all right, fields is equal to, and then you have to pass it an array of the strings of the fields that you'd like to add. So it's really just the name of whatever your video class fields are. So we have like title, URL, YouTube ID. So let's just go ahead and copy those over. So we've got title. We've also got, I believe it was just straight up URL. Yep. And then the last one here, copied this one so I'd spell it correctly, YouTube ID. So we're basically saying, hey, we want you to go grab the following things here for us. And the beautiful thing about Django Forms is this is it. This is all we need to go grab these three things in a form. It's so simple. So we just save this. Let's go back to our views.py. Now when we're creating this add video, we need to create this form, so we need to go ahead and first import that. So we're going to say from.forms import, and this is where we want to go grab the video form class. And then now this is where we're going to create the new form that we want to show. So because this is the main form on the page, you don't have to name it form, but I think it kind of makes sense if you could be more specific and say video form. But I'm just going to say form is equal to video form with open and close parentheses. And that's it. I now have this form that I can then pass forward to a template. So I'm going to say return render. And I'm going to pass inside of here first the request. And then the next thing we need to specify is our template, which we don't have yet. We're going to get to that in a second, but it's going to be something like halls/add. We got to say, okay, halls/ there we go, add _ video.html. And then we want to pass forward this form. So we're going to say for the string of form, should be passing the object form. Bam, just like that. So let's go ahead and do the last step here. Let's open up our templates, halls. We're going to add a new file here. We're going to call this add_video.html, right? That should be the exact same name that you specified over here. Then let's go use something like our create hall just as like a starter template here. So we'll go ahead and copy that, paste that in there. So instead of saying, you know, that, hey, this is where we want to go create a Hall of Fame, this is where we would want to add a video. We're going to specify the title and all that stuff later, but let's just say add video. And what we're going to do is have our form here, and we're going to keep this create button. All of that looks the same. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this. Let's go back to our project. So we have Hall of Fame /2/add video, and we go ahead and hit enter on this. We get an error. And the reason for this is I forgot I had sold our forms as just a little bit too simple. But whenever you go to create a form, this should be specified as metadata for the class. So we're going to say class meta : and then we'll tab these two things over. Okay, so let's save this. Remember, you've got to specify these things in class meta. And if we go back, you can see that's saying, hey, you didn't specify what the model is, and we did. We just didn't put it in the correct place. Okay, so with that in place, let's go ahead and reload here. And whoa, look at this. We have a title, we have a URL, and we have a YouTube ID. Everything that we needed for our form was created with just this. And again, if we go back and inspect the element here, like we go and look at these individual form items, like if we wanted to create this entire form ourselves, we would have had to do these p tags and then create a label and then create an input for each of these and specify between each of them what they should be. And for example, this one's a type of text, this one's type URL. Like they're really kind of customized, and it all just grabs it from whatever's inside of your models. So let's go ahead and move back to our models here. It said like, oh, okay, because this is using a URL field, I should specify that it should be a URL input. And for the two char fields, it did the same. But if we had any other different types here, like for numbers, it's going to specify that. Like for a Boolean, it's going to use a checkbox. It's just really makes it quick and easy to get something up and running. Now, something that you might be thinking is, okay, Nick, that's great, but you can create a form quickly, but it's not the most beautiful looking form. For example, YouTube ID, like I don't like that the I isn't uppercased or something like that. And you're saying, how can we customize these things? Well, let's go ahead and talk about form customization in the next video.